Hey guys, so I'm going to show you how you can use Google's latest AI generation model called Google Nano Banana and generate these type of images for almost free. All right, so I'm going to show you the n8n setup. Also, I will be providing the n8n template for 100% free. And also, I'll explain you how you connect everything and how you can set up all the accounts so it works exactly the same way like it does on your side as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into the workflow right away, and let me explain you how everything works and how you can do it yourself as well, right? So in n8n, everything starts with the trigger node, and in this case, we are using a form submission node. So through this form submission node, we are essentially submitting a prompt to generate that image, right? So to make things easier, let me copy all of the data into the editor so we can actually open the nodes and kind of see how everything works, right? So I'm going to do this here, copy the editor. So now we're going to basically feed the data from that execution into our editor, right? So again, let's go back to the form. So let me just expand this a little bit. So here it is, guys. So form title, nothing crazy here. It's literally a title. It's static. It doesn't perform any function. Form description, you can put whatever you want. It's essentially just a description for the form. And then our form has elements, right? So if you ever worked with any type of forms, forms have like inputs and elements. So essentially it does the same thing. So here it's basic text input element, I would say. So we're asking what do you want to create. It's more of a user experience to guide people to understand what it's supposed to do. The element type is a text, but there are different ones, right? You can upload the file. So for example, if you also want to use Google Nano Banana to edit images or merge images, right? So you can use a file option. So you can upload an actual file through the n8n form. Okay, here I'm using placeholder purely just to describe, an example prompt. And then we're going to respond when the form is submitted. Okay, then it's going to trigger the response. And here you can see the data from the original execution that I did for the cat. So what do you want to create? And then I said place a cat on a moon sitting on top of a Tesla car, okay? And here's the date and what is the mode of the form, right? Because we have two options. The originally is running on production, and you can see here we have two tabs, test URL and production URL. So the difference really is that test URL runs when you execute right here, or execute step locally, it's going to be test URL. But once you activate the flow and it becomes active, it's going to be production URL. Then you can copy paste, bring it to a URL section here, copy paste, and the form will be active online essentially. All right, so now let's move on to the A agent. Okay, so this is our A agent prompt, where basically the prompt is generating. Okay, so again, this is A agent node. It consists of a user message, which is the AKA prompt, and then the system message explaining what the A agent is supposed to be or do at all times, right? So here we're describing the character of the A agent, and basically you are an expert prompt engineer specializing in creating ultra realistic, descriptive, and highly detailed image prompts. And here we're diving a little bit into the, I would say, tech details of the image, what we want on it, or what we're expecting a agent to do, right? So here we are describing basically a sort of a principles of the photography. So camera models, for example, is it iPhone, is it Canon, is it Nikon, right? What kind of lens types, ISO settings, and stuff like that. So the reason why I'm adding this is because it just simply adds that super ultra realistic style to the image without being too, cartoonish, right? So that's why we want to make sure that we mention that to a model. So we are generating super realistic images instead of something like more animated or cartoonish. And then basically we're saying you will receive users input, and then we're saying you need to convert that into a single prompt. And if you look right here, in the green, these ones we are calling them expressions, or you can also call them variables, right? So the way we got here, if you look on the left side, it's coming from this JSON right here. Okay, let me actually switch to JSON. So you can kind of see what you want to create, and here's my prompt. So I can just simply take this and drag it right here, and you guys can see it's essentially the same thing, right? So that's how we are feeding a data from the previous nodes in the current node using an expression, right? So everything that is in double curly braces, that essentially is an expression, right? So you can take the data from the previous node and use that in your current node, okay? It can be a prompt, it can be data, or essentially it can be any type of data that you want to use in your current node, right? And then we are parsing everything into a single output prompt. Okay, so here we're guiding the AI model a little bit because we have something called output parser right here as a tool. So if I go back to Canvas, you can see I have two things. I have a chat model, okay, and then we have structured output parser. Okay, so what this one right here does, it basically takes all of this right here on the left side and it converts that into a specific output format, right? So here we're taking all of this and we're making sure that the final output is going to be formatted as prompt and then the prompt itself. So we are essentially telling a model that this is the output format that we are expecting at all times. And here it is on the right side. We basically are parsing it and this is the final output, which is basically the prompt, and that's exactly what we're asking from the output parser right here. All right, and then we have the AI model itself. If I open that up, I'm using here OpenRouter. Okay, you can also use a chatgpt or OpenAI. So if I go back to Canvas and click on add a node, and if I search for OpenAI, it's going to be actually not here. I have to first disconnect this one and then connect chat model and search for OpenAI. It's going to be this one here, chat model. So this is direct and I would say official AI chat model from OpenAI. And from here, you will have an option to select any of the OpenAI models from the list. So if you want to learn more in terms of how to connect your APIs using OpenAI, make sure to check out my YouTube channel. I have a lot of tutorials where I'm showing you how to use OpenAI's API platform and how to generate API keys and how to bring them to your n8n. But today's focus, we're going to be focusing on a platform called OpenRouter. But again, it's very similar to OpenAI, just a couple of different things that you need to note. But again, let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm using something called OpenRouter. And the reason why I'm using it because it gives you an access to all of the AI models under one umbrella, right? So if I expand my window, you guys can see I have all kinds of AI models that I haven't really even heard about, right? So here you have OpenAI, you have Claude, right? You have Perplexity. So essentially all the models, and you have also Google's Gemini models as well. It's really convenient because all the models are under the same roof. So let me show you quickly how you can get the account with OpenRouter and how you can bring your API key into n8n. So first of all, you're going to go to OpenRouter, openrouter.ai. Then you're going to click on sign in and then just basically create an account or sign in with your Gmail to create an account faster. And once you do, this is going to be the account, guys. Then you need to create your API key. Just click here on the right side, click on the keys, and then create your API key, okay? You can call it something like n8n. You can set a limit if you want to, and then create, and it's going to give you a very long API key, okay? Which doesn't mean anything to you, but just copy paste that key, bring it back to n8n, then go back here to the OpenRouter node, then click right here on the drop down, create a new credential, okay? And literally just copy paste that API key in here and click save, and you're good to go. The only thing, it's not going to work out of the box. You do need to add some credits because you guys know API keys are not free, especially when you're working with AI models. So there's going to be some minimal cost to your API usage, right? So just go ahead here, add credits, right? It's going to be really simple. Just add your credit card and add something like $10 or $15, and it's going to be more than enough to start working with the OpenRouter account. And that's it, guys. Congrats. You are good to go on the OpenRouter account. So we can go back to the canvas and discuss the next nodes. All right. So next in line, we have the HTTP node. And HTTP nodes, essentially, they do HTTP requests, right? So either posts or get. So when you work with n8n, in most cases, you will be using post or get. So when we're posting, we are essentially sending a post request or sending a request with the data to the API. Okay, but if we want to get the data back, we would be using get, right? So if you guys want to learn more about the HTTP request, API calls, also make sure to check out my YouTube channel. I have a lot of videos where I talk about the requests and APIs. So here we're using the URL, which is basically chat completions. This is the URL where two requests are going to, and you can get this URL from the official OpenRouter documentation here. So if I go here to the docs and references, essentially you can see this is the post request, and this is essentially the same URL I'm using in here, guys. Okay, so it's essentially one-to-one. And again, if we expand the JSON right here, and JSON is basically a content type, or basically a body type we're sending to the API, right? Because we need to send some data so we can generate the image and also describe which AI model we want to use, right? So here we're describing we want to use the Gemini 2.5 Flash image preview, which is basically the Google Nano Banana. So how do we know how to structure the JSON output here? If we go back to the OpenRouter, just right here on the post request right here, for example, it's essentially the same thing, right? So the only thing we are excluding is the curl. We don't need curl because everything is predefined in n8n. Essentially, this is the API endpoint, which we already have here. And then we have the authorization, and we also have the API key, okay? Sometimes it's called bearer, and we have the token, but essentially it's the same thing as API key. So if you guys remember, we created API key through the OpenRouter, and we added that credential into your n8n. So essentially, this is not needed. So that's why we only have this part right here, model, message, role, and the content that we are actually using in n8n, right? And then we're feeding the actual prompt from the JSON right here. So this is coming from our agent prompt node. But again, if I drag it right here, you guys can see it's essentially exactly the same thing. So I can drag and drop whatever the data you want to feed to the APIs or AI agents. Just a thing with APIs, always make sure that you check the documentations or ask ChatGPT to make sure that you're sending the right data to APIs. Otherwise, it's going to crash. All right, next up, we have something called base string, or essentially it's a set node. What it does, we want to grab the base, and base, think of it as a binary code. Okay, so computers don't really see the images in a sense. So for computers, everything is a binary code, or essentially it's a 0 and 1. So we want to clean that into a string, okay? So there's a couple of things that we want to filter out and basically remove from that base. And to do that, we need to first convert that into a string and then run a basic cleanup function and remove a couple of things. And that's going to give us a very clean base 64 string right here, right? And then again, we need to convert that string into a binary again, right? Because string is just a string, or basically a bunch of text, and we can't really form an image from that. So we're taking that cleaned up base string, and then we're converting that back into a binary, because binary now can be converted into a data or an image, right? So basically, after sanitizing or cleaning up the base into the string and then converting string back into the binary, we are getting the data, right? So here we can see from base to data. And if I preview, here we have our image because we converted the base into a data, or in our case, that would be an image right here. And then we're sending everything to a Google Drive. If I expand it right here, all this node right here does really, it's also an official Google Drive node from Google. It will basically upload the image to the Google Drive, okay? So if I look right here, we have the WebView link. So if I copy this, I should be able to open that image through the Google Drive, and here it is. And again, guys, if you want to learn more about how to integrate and how to integrate your Google Drive with your n8n, it's a bit of a process. I do have videos on that on my YouTube channel, guys, so make sure to check it out so you can learn how to use Google Drive in your n8n, because you need to go to something called Google Console, create some authentication keys and secrets, and then bring them back to n8n. So it's not really part of this video, but if you guys want to learn, make sure to check out my YouTube channel. I have a bunch of videos on that as well. Okay, guys, and that's it. That's basically a wrap. Again, I will be providing the entire template for free, guys, either in the comment section or in the description box. So if you guys enjoy the content and if you want me to provide more videos like this in the future, make sure to like and subscribe and enable those notifications to get notified for the next video drops. And guys, you already know I'm going to wish you happy building, and I'm going to see you next time.